So we saw in the previous discussion about the policy implementation stage. The next stage is policy education. Now many problems in policy implementation can be solved through policy education. So if you educate the people regarding the policy, then many problems can be resolved. So people has to be made aware of the objectives of the policies. What are the benefits of the policy? What they are going to derive from them? How these policies are to be benefiting them? So if you make these people aware, then the policy implementation will be successful. For example, now these farmers are agitating against the farmer bill. So if they would have been made aware about the objectives of this policy and how this policy is for their benefit, how it is going to help them, then there would not have been much problem in the implementation. So we need to create awareness among the different stakeholders, among the people who are going to get benefits from the policy, for whom the policy is made, and also for the people who are going to implement those policies. There is a need that we create a right kind of attitude in people towards government policies. So if the people do not take it positively, if their attitude towards policy is not positive, then we are going to face difficulties in its implementation. So we need to create that right kind of attitude. And this right kind of attitudes can be created only by educating them. So we need to develop the positive attitude towards these government policies by increasing people's participation in policy formulation, implementation and evaluation. So if you increase their participation, like if you take all the people along with you, when the policies are formulated, if you take the farmers also along with you, at the formulation stage also and at the implementation stage also, then it will increase their participation. Similarly, we need to have the advocate support from the people. So you will get the advocate support only if the people are positive towards this policy. For the success of any policy implementation, the people's support is very much important. So you can have that public support by taking them along with you. So people should not be just an end of the public policies, that is the targets or beneficiaries of policies, but should also be the means for achieving the goals of the policies. So these people for whom the policies are developed are not only the end to achieve the target, but they also should become the means, because if they are not becoming the means, then your goals will not be achieved. So policy education must receive due attention if public policies have to be made easily implementable and acceptable. So it is very much necessary that for its successful implementation, the public education should be given more attention. Advocate public support can make the role of voluntary agencies also much easier. And the corruption can also be minimized by educating the people. So the corruption can be minimized and required expertise and skills can be incorporated. So voluntary agencies can act as a very crucial alternative mode of implementation. So before we go for actual implementation of a policy, it is must that we make sure that those who are involved in the implementation as well as those who are going to be affected by its implementation, they are very much well aware of the formulated objectives and impact. So you make them aware beforehand that these are the objectives of this policy and this is how it is going to be implemented and this is what it will have the impact upon you. Policy evaluation, this is the final and the most important stage in policy cycle. So in order to determine the success or failure of a policy, it is essential that a systematic and effective policy evaluation system exists in the country. A precondition to foolproof policy evaluation system is proper policy monitoring. So if you want that your policy is successful, then there is a need that we have a proper policy monitoring. So after the implementation of the program, it has to be ensured that implementation machinery functions adequately. So the machinery which is going to implement, whether they are functioning properly or not, that has to be ensured. We should ensure that the agencies, the people, the institutions which are involved in implementation are not corrupt. There is also a need that we see that the resources which are needed for carrying out the programs are sufficiently available. Not only that they are available, but we also should see that they are intelligently spent and they should be spent within the target time. We should see that the duration targets are also met. If the policy is to be implemented and its benefits are to be reaped after 5 years, then it has to be implemented and we could see that the benefits are coming after 5 years. The farmers' policy, whether it is implemented the right time or not, we need to see that. So only after keeping a track of all these activities can proper evaluation of a policy is possible. So the policy has to be evaluated in terms of quantitative and as well as qualitative. So we need to see that the objectives and goals which we have formulated, whether we are able to achieve those goals or not, whether those objectives are achieved or not. So it is quite possible, well, the objectives can be achieved which may not lead to the achievement of goals. For instance, when you are talking about rural development program, distribution of buffaloes has been complete. Fine. Like, you want to increase their income, so you have distributed buffaloes to the families. So the distribution of buffaloes is complete, but the incomes of beneficiary families has not increased. Fine. So the objective was that you have to distribute the buffaloes. That you did. But the goal, that is their income should increase, that has not been seen. So therefore, we have to clearly guard against the evaluation of this type, and in no way we should see that the intermediate goals be equated with ultimate goals. So we should have that clear and measurable definition of goals and objectives. What are you going to measure? There should be clarity. So if there is no clarity, in the goals and objectives, then you do not know what is to be evaluated. Another way to evaluate a policy is to see the efficiency with regard to time and cost. How much time it has taken and what is the cost involved in its implementation. It has been seen that the policy that is implemented is able to make use of money available for it or sanction for it most appropriate manner or not. See to it that whatever money has been spent is spent properly or not. Whether the entire amount which was given for that is being utilized for the right purpose or not, or there is a wastage of money. So that needs to be evaluated. It is also necessary that we see that implementation of a policy is complete within the allocated time, because we do fix the target time. And the time and costs are interrelated factors. If you do not complete the implementation within a stipulated time, then the cost will increase. So time and cost are interrelated factors which we need to take care of. So if policy implementation takes more time than required, then what will happen? The cost of resources will also increase. So there will be a cost overrun, or there will be extra expenditure. From where will you get this money now? So if the time overruns and the cost overruns, then it will create a problem for us, because there is a stipulated budget which is being allocated. So we need to see this, that the time does not overrun and does not exceed our cost. So during the course of policy implementation itself, the alternative methods to bring about efficiency have to be thought of. So we need to think about the different ways so that the money is not wasted and the time is not wasted. So we are doing our tasks within the stipulated time, and we are not crossing the time limit, and we are not exceeding the cost. So while evaluating, we are seeing whether we are achieving the goals and objectives which are meant, and we are also seeing whether the resources which are allocated are utilized properly or not, whether there is any corruption being involved or not. We need to see that there is no corruption and that it is not exceeding the time limit. So thus, there are several criteria of evaluation of a policy, and a policy has to satisfy the interests of all sections of the community, no matter on what criteria you are evaluating, whichever criteria you take, but then it should be helpful to all the sections of the society. So policies can be effective if there is consensus and agreement on issues. So the goals and objectives underlying a policy are usually disputed if such type of consensus and agreement do not exist. So we need to bring that consensus. So we can say that evaluation of a policy has to be done very carefully so that subsequent policies do not suffer from similar problems and lasting solutions can be thought of. So with this, we end up with the policy cycle, wherein we began with the policy formulation, then policy implementation, policy education, and the last one is policy evaluation.